Hey, welcome back to the Cine Co Show. Today we're going to be talking about cinematic corporate videos. It's gonna be sweet. This is the top 5 things to make your corporate video look cinematic. And number 1 is intentionality. The thing that separates a film from any other sort of video, or even a commercial and films from anything else, is intentionality behind what they're doing. When you can have intentionality of why you're doing what you're doing, and everything is centered around having some intention of what you do, will make your video look so much better. It doesn't matter what camera you shoot on, it doesn't matter what lens you shoot on. If you can do this one thing and be intentional about what you're doing, everything else will fall into place and make it feel more cinematic. That's the biggest difference. They have all this time to decide exactly what needs to happen to make this film the best it can be and have intention behind everything they do. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be super descriptive and granular about it, but you can be very specific about, hey, this is the message I'm trying to convey, and this is how I want to do it in each one of these different areas. And I get it. Sometimes you get busy, you get in the moment, and you don't have time, and you have to run, and it's run and gun, and you just have to get as much done as you can. Of course, I totally understand that. But when you have a moment and you can try to be intentional, and it will make your work better, and it'll make you a lot more satisfied. When I'm intentional about what I do, I'm far more satisfied with my work. Even if it doesn't turn out fantastic, I'm still more satisfied than when I'm not intentional. So that's number 1, intentionality. Lighting is incredibly important, but I think what people forget is it's not just putting lights up and lighting it, it's also the lack of light. If you watch any dramatic film, you'll notice that there's dark and there's light areas. It's all about that contrast. How do you want to contrast the light? I mean, you can even take this lighting setup that I have here, real simple. I could turn off one of the lights and the mood completely changes. I can turn off the backlight and again, it changes a little bit. And then I can turn off the other backlight and now I'm in a video for college. Dartmouth. Come to Dartmouth. I love it here. Anyway, or I can make it even more dramatic, like that. But the lack of light is something that a lot of people don't think about. Negative fill is something that people don't think about. So I think that's something that's not brought up a lot, is what not to light. Everything in your scene doesn't have to be super bright, super lit. For example, if you're in a big conference room, which is a place that a lot of corporate videos are shot, is a big conference room. They usually have a bunch of windows, and usually they have shades that you can block out the windows. Don't just open all the windows, set your person next to it, and then they have this beautiful light, but then the rest of the room is lit basically the same. You can close a bunch of the shades, set the person next to the window. You don't even have to set up a single light. Bring in a bounce card to bounce in on the other side, close all the shades behind the person so that they have that contrast of darker and lighter, and your piece would look really cinematic. That's like the simplest thing you can do. That's what I did for quite a while before I got any lights. Was I would use the natural light from outside, set the person close to a window, block off as much of the light as I could behind the person, bring in a piece of bounce card or something, bounce a little bit of that light back into their face to give them maybe a little eye light or a little bit on the side. The way I like to approach it is, what is my intention behind my lighting? Why am I lighting it this way? Do I want high key? Do I want low key? Do I want it to be dark? Do I want it to be bright? What message am I trying to get across? Is this a very dramatic piece? Is this a very lighthearted piece? Is it fun? Is it silly? Is it, all of these things. If you have that foundation of intentionality, everything else will be dictated by it. Now, lighting is a huge topic, and of course I'll be making a lot more videos about this. But that's kind of the overview to help make a corporate video a little more cinematic. Art direction is super important. What you put in the scene versus what you don't, what you exclude and include, will create a vastly different mood. I have a whole video on this that I made a couple of years ago. It's a good example of how to shape your intentionality of composition and art direction. How do you frame up your shot? Why are you framing it that way? Do you do a 3/4 view of the second camera angle? Do you even have two camera angles when you're doing interviews? Is it more profile when they're talking? Is it more straight on? Is it looking directly down the barrel of the lens? Or is it looking back and forth between two cameras? How do you want to create the mood that you're creating? A great example that we did for composition was we did Under Armour, and we filmed it looking directly down the barrel. And we had what's called an eye direct, where the interview, basically it's a two-way mirror, so the interviewee and the interviewer are looking at each other, but it's through the lens of the camera. And so they look directly into the camera. We wanted to do that because it was very bold. Their brand is very bold. We wanted them to be very direct, very straightforward, looking directly at the audience, addressing the audience. That's something that we wanted to create, so that's what we did. But it was all about the intention behind it. We had intention of, we wanted those things. We had the reasonings why we were doing it, and then we executed it. And then on top of that is art direction. A lot of the times, places are crazy cluttered. There's tons of stuff in the office. So just clean it up, make it look nice. If the person has their glasses happen to just like sitting on the desk, don't just leave them there unless there's an intention behind it. Get rid of it. Get rid of the clutter. Have it look nice. Have the things behind the person be stuff that makes sense for the scene. I did a video series where we did a ton of different interviews with a bunch of different people, and we traveled all over the country, and it was very short timeline. I had a great art director, and we were able to work really closely together to create a look that looked awesome for each individual person that we were doing. Another big one is wardrobe. A lot of the times you're interviewing executives, you can't do fittings, or you don't have the budget to get a wardrobe person or the budget to even buy wardrobe. What I typically do in those situations is I will create a mood board with the art director, talk through what we want, the look and feel and the reasons to have them dress the way they dress, and then send that to the different talent that we're gonna have, the different interviews, and say, can you bring something along these lines? And bring 4 different options that we can choose from. Then they bring their options, and then you can choose which one works the best and then film it. That has worked really well. Sometimes it backfires because they forget to bring stuff, but if you don't plan, then of course you're just leaving it to chance. But at least if you let them know and plan, then you can have something that's good. This is one that people don't think about until usually after they shoot. And then they're like, oh, what music should we use with this? This is one that I love it when we can pick out the mood and the music even before we start shooting. Even if it's not the final music you're gonna use, at least you have some inspiration. You have some ideas of what you want the music to be. That super helps with dictating exactly what you shoot, why you're shooting what you're shooting. It helps even in your mind to kind of put the edit together while you're shooting it. It's really a tough fight. A lot of people don't want to take the time or the energy to do that, or you don't even have the time. Sometimes you only have a week or a couple days to get the shoot set up, that you don't have time to even think about music. So of course I understand that, but if you can bring up music earlier in the process, it will make your piece so much better and it will make it cinematic. Think about all the movies you've seen. Think about the iconic films that you've watched. Think of Harry Potter or Indiana Jones or Star Wars. All of these films have themes. I could hum any of them right now and you'd know exactly what I'm doing. Now, I'm not saying you have to do a custom piece of music by any means. There's plenty of places out there that have great stock music. I did a video a while back on Artlist. There's also Pond 5, Audio Jungle, Music Bed, you name it. There's tons of them out there. Get talent. Don't use in-house people. Corporations always want to, well, we can save money. We can save so much money if we just use people in-house. Yeah, great. You can use people in-house, maybe as extras, but no, don't use in-house people. It's so frustrating. Every time I use people from the corporation to try and save money, it costs time and basically money. Now, one thing that I've done in the past that's been a problem is hiring people off headshots. You'll put out a bunch of requests for your talent, to agencies, local agencies, and then they'll come back and send you a bunch of headshots, and then you choose which one you want. If you choose from a headshot, you will probably be disappointed every time. There's a few times that it works out really well and you get kind of a miracle moment. But here's what I would recommend. The way to avoid it is ask for a reel, at minimum, ask for a reel, and then at least you can see them in action and you can see what they look like when they're actually acting. And then number two that you can do if they don't have a reel is just have them record something on their phone. You can just be like, hey, I just need you to mix up some yogurt, smile, and eat it. Whatever, if you're shooting a Chobani commercial or something. This at least gives you a little bit of a foundation to know if this person actually has some acting chops, that they can be directed a little bit on set. It's the worst when you get on set and you have these talent show up and you're like, okay, I just need you to walk from here to here, open the door and smile. So they get out and they're like, you're like, what are you doing? Nobody walks like that. Have you done this before? So that's frustrating. That happens because a lot of the times these agencies will represent both models and talent, actors. And so they get intermingled and they think it's kind of the same thing, but it's not. And when you get someone who's only modeled, who decides to just be an actor, they do really good at getting poses, but they do a really bad job moving from one pose to the next. I can't tell you how many times I've been on set and that's happened, where you're just like, wow, you're a good person, but you shouldn't act. You can't act. That's my top 5 right there. Be intentional about what you do. Focus on lighting, but focus specifically on how to take light away. Work on composition and art direction. Then do music and mood. And of course, lastly, is talent. Now, all of these work really well together if the first one is focused on, if everything has intention behind it. Intentionality is key. I can't pound that enough to tell you that when you are intentional about what you're doing, it will make it far more cinematic. That is what separates a corporate video from a cinematic film. I hope this was helpful. I hope that this was something that interests you. If I missed anything on the top 5 that you thought, hey, you missed this, idiot, like put it in the comments below. We can start a great discussion or an argument, or you can just have a slugfest or salted slugfest and it turns into this mushy, nasty, gross, and everyone's like, I hate you don't know anything about filmmaking, I hate you too. Anyway, I hope it doesn't turn into that. I hope it turns into a positive and great discussion, because I do really enjoy hearing from you guys. I also have a blog, and if you're interested in checking out my work that I've done, I do behind the scenes blog for most of the projects that I do. Link is in the description below. You can check that out. Also, be sure to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.